Okay, we're going to do two short little lessons here. So let's put our technology where earbuds out, phones off the desks, please. All right, solve by factoring. So what we did yesterday, we got to get one side equal to 0. So I'm going to add 1. Get that equal to 0. Now we're going to try to factor. Okay. So how do we factor? 7 times 1 is the only way we get that. So we get 7x times x. Now, 1. The ways to get 1 are 1 times 1. If I put a 1 here, that needs to be multiplied by the 7. I'm going to make it a negative 1. So when we multiply that, that would be negative 7x. Make this negative 1, that's negative 1x. Okay? So we get negative 8x. All right? So now you set them equal to 0. 7x minus 1 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. Okay, we add 1. We divide by 7. X equals 1/7. We add 1. X equals 1. Okay, it's the same thing. First you factor, then this one. I'm going to subtract 8 from each side. We get 3x squared plus 4x minus 4 equals 0. The whole goal, like yesterday, get one side to be 0, then you can factor it. X and x. Now, they have to subtract to get 4, but it's not as easy as it was before. It's not like yesterday. The 4 can be 1 times 4, it can be 2 times 2. So this goes back, I usually start with the closest pair, and it's what we call guess and check. If I put a 2 in here, that 2 is going to get multiplied by this. That's going to end up being 6. If I put the 2 here, that's going to be 2x. Well, those two subtract and they can get 4. I want to make this 6 positive, so I'm going to make this positive, so that turns into a positive 6. Then the other one, I'm going to make negative, so that when I subtract them, I get the 4x. Now, you don't have to write all that, but what you always have to do, I always said, we got to check those loops. We got to see what the loops multiply to. So I would add 2, and I'd divide by 3. I'd subtract 2. Negative 2. Questions on those two? this one, I'm going to subtract 7n from each side. Now, I don't need to write it, but remember we put it in a certain order. So if you're like, why did you put that one second? That's the order we put it in. It's like an x squared plus x. Okay. But this one's a little different. The 4n, there's a couple ways you can get 4n. It can be 2n times 2n. So I usually say we start, we're going to put the 2n and 2n, see if that works. Hopefully that does. And if it doesn't work, then we're going to have to put 4n and 1n. And it's just a process that you have to guess and check. You got to get things to work out. So 3, there's only one way to get 3. We can put a 3 and we can put a 1. This would be 6n and this would be 2n. And there's no way those are ever going to add together to get 7. Okay. So I did something wrong. It's 6 and 2. No. So must not be that, because it doesn't matter if I flip them around or not. 4n and n. That could be 3 and 1. If I put the 3 here, the 3 would multiply by the 4, I get 12. I'm not even close to 7. So I'm not going to put the 3 there. I'm going to put the 3 here and the 1 here. I'm going to make them both negative. This times this is negative 4n. This times this is negative 3n. And those do get us the negative 7n. But that's why we say guess and check, because this one, 2 and 2 didn't work with 4. The first number sometimes takes a little more work. Okay, 4n minus 3 equals 0, n equals 3/4. N equals 1. Okay. Like, how do you get 3/4? Say, add 3, then divide by 4. Make sense? Yeah. This one, I'm going to add 4x squared. And you might say, why are you moving that one? Normally you move the other one. Well, I'm going to make this side 0, and by doing that, that side becomes all positive. I like the x squared to be positive. Okay? Now, I notice that they're all even, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. You can still factor it without doing that, but the reason I'm going to do that, it'll make this easier to factor if I divide by 2, because 0 divided by 2, that side's still 0, but this side becomes 2x squared plus 9x plus 9. All those got a little simpler. It's easier to work with smaller numbers than bigger numbers. Now, 2x squared would be 2x and x. 9 is either 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. I always say start in the closest pair, so I go 3 and 3. Now, if you multiply these outside 2, what's that going to be? How many x? 6 and 3. Will that get us 9? Can you see it? Okay. Now, all that equals 0, so you set each of them equal to 0. -2, -3. Okay. going to go into the next part. Do these two together. Get into the word problems. Everybody good on this one? All right. You're making a rectangular table. So some of these, maybe it helps to draw. The area of the table. Now, if you remember with a rectangle, you should have done this before somewhere in a math class. Area equals length times width. You take the length times the width to get the area, right? So like, for example, if I had this and it was 1, 2, 3 wide by 2, 3 times 2, 3 times 2, length times width is 6. There's 6 little squares in there, right? 6 little squares. Okay, so the area should be 10 though, it says. The area shouldn't be 6, the area should be 10. Okay, so if the area is 10, over here I'm going to make this area 10. And then it says, what's the length of the table? So it's 1 foot shorter than twice the width. And you're like, huh? Okay, so what we have is, I'm going to call this W. And the length is twice the width, but 1 foot shorter than that. Okay? So, the length is 2W minus 1. The width is W. Length times width. I've replaced length with 2W minus 1. And it all equals 10. Now, we've got a problem we can set up like we just did. We have 10 equals 2W squared minus W. And you're like, where'd you get that? I did some distributing. This times this is 2W squared. This times this minus W. Now, if we get this side to be 0, we get 2W squared minus W minus 10 all equals 0. The trick is always what you put in certain places. Whatever I put here gets multiplied by 2. I'm going to put the 2 there. I'm going to make it positive. I'm going to put the 5 here. I'm going to make it negative. 2 times 2 is 4W. Negative 5 times W is negative 5W. If I put those together, it's negative W. That's what I wanted. Now, it might take you a little longer to get that. But now we set this equal to 0. 2W minus 5 equals 0. Add 5, divide by 2. W is 5 over 2, or 2.5. Half of 5 is 2.5. W equals negative 2. I'm going to cross that one off. I can't have a width that has a negative value. You can't say, how long is that? Negative 2. Okay. So this is 2.5. This up here is 2 times 2.5. What's 2 times 2.5? 5. Minus 1 is 4. So that would make this 4. Now let's check. 4 times 2.5 is 10. That's the way it was supposed to work. If you multiply them, you get 10. Plot of land for sale has a width of X feet. Okay, so here's a plot of land. Width is X. The length is 8 feet less than the width. So what's that one? The length That doesn't make sense. And a length that is 8 feet less than its width? The length is usually the longer one. It shouldn't be less than the width, but we'll go with it. So what should this be, though? Read what it says. X minus 8. Doesn't make sense. That's not going to be longer than it's going to be shorter. So technically, length and width. Length is always the longer side. So it really should have been, it has a length of X feet and a width that is 8 feet less than its length. But whatever. They'll only purchase it if the area is 240. Okay. So here's the formula. Area equals length times width. 240 is the area. The length is supposed to be X minus 8. The width is supposed to be X. And we have to try to solve for X. Okay? This one's going to be easier. It's going to be like the ones we did yesterday. It's going to have better numbers because it doesn't have that annoying value in front. It's just going to be X and X, and we just have to look at the 240. But there's going to be a lot of things for 240. 1 times 240, you take your calculator, divide by 2. 2 times 120. 3 times 80. 4 times 60. We're looking for 2 that when you subtract them, you get 8. Well, if I subtract those, I get 56. I'm not even close to 8 yet. But 5 times 48. 6 times 40. 7 doesn't work. 8 times 30. 9 doesn't work. 10 times 24. I'm going to subtract those. I don't get 8 yet. 11 doesn't work. 12 times 20. Ding, 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 ding. What happens if I subtract 12 and 20? I get 8. So we can stop there. You can keep going if you want. There's probably some more. But I'm going to go minus 20 plus 12. So X could be 20. Or X could be negative 12. Which one can't it be? Can't be negative 12. So one of the sides is 20. What would this one be then? It actually ends up being 12. Interesting. The problem ends up working out to those two numbers anyway. 20 and positive 12. But what it couldn't be, one of them can't be negative 12. Because if we made this one negative 12, that one's negative 20, well, the negative lengths and widths don't make sense. Jason has a patio of uniform width about his perimeter of his rectangular pool. All right. This ought to be cool to have a swimming pool in the backyard, but I don't have one. Sad day. All right. Pool measures 22 feet by 12 feet. Already gives us that. So the pool is 22 by 12, but then he puts a patio around, so we're looking at this thing around. The area of the pool and the patio is 500 square feet. What's the width of the patio? Now, this one's a little harder. Over here, we don't know what this is. This is, I'm going to call this X. But if I add that on, if I'm walking around, that's X. And this is X. So the total of this thing would be 22 plus 2X, or 2X plus 22. I'm going to actually write it that way. So the length, when we substitute for length and width, the length is 2X plus 22Y. The width, you would add X here, but you would also add X here. So this thing from here to here is 2X plus 12. And all that equals 504. Wow, this one's going to be a little bit longer. therefore equals. Now 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times that is plus 24x. 22 times this is plus 44x. 22 times 12 264, I believe. I'd have to check. All right, we got a lot of stuff here. All right, I'm going to subtract 504 from each side. I get 4x squared. These two are like terms, which I get 68x. And if I subtract 504, 264 minus 504 is, I need your help, 240, negative 240, 264 minus 504, 264, subtract the 504. Is it negative 240? All right. I'm going to try to divide everything by 4 to make life easier. I don't like to use big numbers, okay? And I should have used the calculator. I guess I used the calculator for it. So this one, 0 equals x squared plus 17x minus 60. Let's use a calculator instead of factoring this one. What is nice is sometimes you can set them up to solve them this way. I can take our calculator. Now, all the problems that we've done, if we type this one in, and we go x squared plus 17x plus 60. If you remember, it gives us a graph that looks like this, and we go menu 4A. I'm going to zoom a little bit. Why does this one not work? What did I do wrong? Oh, it should have been negative 60. So on here, that was negative 60. I typed it in wrong. Where does it look like it crosses? At what? 1, 2, 3? Let's find out. Menu 4. No, menu 6, 1. It's a 0. I'm going to click here, click there. It looks like it crosses at 3. Now there's another 0 somewhere over here in the negatives, but I don't want that one anyway. Now I will try to factor this one just to show you we could have factored it. Three times what? 60. Any idea? $20. Now that would be 20 minus 3 is 17. But this one, it's going to be x is 3. That's where it crosses. X equals negative 20. That one doesn't work anyway. So if x is 3, that's how wide our sidewalk is, or our patio around this thing. I know there's one more, but we're going to call that one good so we can